AITA for calling out my family after they humiliated me at my sister's wedding dinner? I'm Charlotte, 42. The daughter my father always described with a sigh before he said my name. I live a quiet, stable life, the kind my family never understood because it did not come with constant photos, applause, or people saying, "You must be so proud." I have spent years doing private review work and sitting in rooms where a signature, a recommendation, or one careful no can change what happens next. My family never asked much about that part of my life. They only cared when something broke, someone panicked, or a bill needed to quietly disappear. In our family, Vanessa was the polished one. She was 45, always camera ready, always wearing the right dress, always knowing when to smile and when to put a hand on someone's shoulder. She was the daughter my parents centered in every photo. I was the one standing at the edge of the frame, usually holding someone's purse or trying to make sure the cake arrived on time. My father, Richard, loved telling people Vanessa had made something of herself. He said it like the rest of us were unfinished projects. My mother, Marianne, would smile tightly whenever he said it, as if she knew it was unfair but not unfair enough to interrupt dinner over. Uncle Ray usually laughed along because laughing with my father was easier than being on the receiving end of him. Vanessa had just married Ethan, a polite, careful man with an expensive watch, and the kind of calm voice that made people lower theirs around him. This dinner was supposed to be her first big family evening as a newly married woman, a private post-wedding celebration with both sides gathered in a long room behind a restaurant. Not the actual wedding, not the reception, just the kind of dinner where wealthy relatives and proud parents pretend everyone at the table has always behaved beautifully. I almost skipped it. That evening I stood in my kitchen staring at my phone while my basil plant drooped in the corner like it had given up on me. There was a stack of unopened mail on the counter, a mug in the sink, and a pair of shoes by the door I had been meaning to put away for 3 days. I was tired before I even got dressed. My mother had already sent 3 messages. "Please come. It would mean a lot to your sister. Please don't make this awkward. Your father is in a good mood. Let's keep it that way." That last one almost made me laugh. My father being in a good mood usually meant he had an audience. Vanessa texted too. "Please just be normal tonight. Ethan's family doesn't need the whole Charlotte experience." I stared at that message for a while. The whole Charlotte experience. I had no idea what that meant anymore. Asking a direct question? Refusing to pretend obvious lies were true? Not smiling when someone insulted me? I typed, "What exactly are you worried I'll do?" 3 dots appeared, vanished, then appeared again. She finally wrote, "Nothing. I just want one peaceful night." Then my father sent his own message. "Don't make Vanessa's dinner about your principles." That was what he called it when I would not sign off on something sloppy, dishonest, or hidden behind family language. Principles. He said the word the way other people said rash. I was about to put my phone down when the family group chat lit up with a new message from Vanessa. It stayed there for maybe 5 seconds before it disappeared. "Just don't mention the review issue unless Charlotte brings it up." Deleted. Too late. I sat there with my phone in my hand, the kitchen light humming above me, and felt the old familiar weight settle behind my ribs. The dinner was not just about welcoming Ethan. It was about staging a story. Vanessa as the beautiful new wife. My father as the proud patriarch. My mother as the smiling peacekeeper. Me as the difficult sister who showed up, behaved, and made everyone else look gracious by comparison. The review issue explained the rest. For 6 months, my father had been sending me messages about a file he wanted me to look at. First he acted casual. "Just glance at this when you have time." Then it became warmer. "Your sister's future may benefit from this. Family should help family." Then sharper. "Don't punish Vanessa because you like making things complicated." Vanessa had sent her own messages from a different angle. "Can you just say the family file is clean? It would make things easier for everyone. Please don't make me explain to Ethan that you're the reason this stalled. You know Dad gets embarrassed when people ask about old debts. Why put him through that?" I had refused because the file was not clean. There were vague disclosures, missing explanations, old obligations described like they had evaporated, and a family guarantee buried where no one was supposed to look too closely. Nothing about it felt simple enough for me to attach my name to it. And in the circles involved, my name did not make people stop asking questions. It made them ask better ones. That was the part my family always got wrong. They thought my value was something they could borrow without respecting the person attached to it. So before I left for dinner, I did something I had never done before a family event. I printed the emails. My little printer coughed and clicked like it was offended by the assignment. Page after page slid out. My father's message asking me to use your name to move this along. Vanessa's text asking me not to reveal I was the reason it stalled. A summary page showing my refusal to support the file because the disclosures were incomplete. I added one more thing. A copy of an old transfer confirmation from years ago, when the family had nearly collapsed under a quiet financial emergency and I had stepped in. My father later told everyone Vanessa had handled it. I had not corrected him then. I was younger, tired, and still trained to believe peace was proof of maturity. But I had kept the receipt, not because I wanted to attack anyone, but because my family had taught me that memory was not enough. I slid everything into a plain folder and put it in my bag. I told myself I probably would not use it. I also knew I was lying. The restaurant had one of those private dining rooms with heavy curtains, dim lights, candles on the table, and place cards written in neat little loops. There was a framed wedding photo near the dessert table, Vanessa in a cream dress with her head tilted perfectly toward Ethan. At the center of the long table were Vanessa, Ethan, my parents, Ethan's Aunt Margaret, and two of his relatives I had only met once. I was seated near the far end, beside Uncle Ray and across from a cousin who looked relieved to have someone less important to talk to. My place card simply said Charlotte. No one had put me near my sister. That was not accidental. Marion spotted me first. She came over quickly, perfume and nerves arriving before she did. You came, she said. I said I would. She touched my arm. Just be happy for your sister tonight. Please. I was planning to eat dinner, Mom, not perform surgery. Her smile twitched. You know what I mean. I did. She meant. Let your father say what he wants. Let Vanessa have the center. Do not correct anyone. Do not make truth louder than comfort. Vanessa appeared a second later, wearing another cream dress, softer than her wedding gown but still bridal enough to make the room orbit around her. Her hair was pinned back, her makeup perfect, and when she hugged me, her mouth stayed close to my ear. Let's keep tonight light, okay? She whispered. Ethan's family doesn't really understand our dynamic. I pulled back and looked at her. Do you? Her smile held for the room, but her eyes sharpened. Charlotte. Vanessa. Ethan approached before she could say more. He smiled in a way that felt practiced but not fake. I'm glad we finally get to meet properly, he said, offering his hand. Same, I said. Weddings don't exactly leave room for real conversation. His handshake was firm, polite. Vanessa has told me a lot about you. I almost asked whether any of it was true. Instead, I said, I'm sure she has. For a moment, his expression flickered, like he had heard the edge but decided not to touch it. Vanessa slipped her hand through his arm and steered him away. Dinner started with small talk. Someone complimented the flowers. Margaret asked who had chosen the wine. Uncle Ray told a joke too loudly and laughed before anyone else did. My father held court from the center of the table, his voice spreading over the room like smoke. Richard loved rooms like that. White tablecloths. Good lighting. People watching him. He was 68, but his pride had not aged a day. He still carried himself like every conversation was a chance to prove he was the smartest man nearby. First he behaved. He toasted Ethan's family. He praised the wedding. He said Vanessa had always had grace, discipline, and a natural understanding of how to build a proper life. I kept my eyes on my water glass. Then he turned slightly, just enough that everyone could see him, include me. Vanessa always knew what mattered, he said. She built a real life. Charlotte still confuses stubbornness with success. A few people gave that fake polite laugh people use when they know a joke has teeth but do not want to admit they heard the bite. Uncle Ray chuckled first, then stopped when he noticed I was not smiling. Vanessa lowered her eyes with a small, embarrassed grin, like my father's comment was unfortunate but understandable. My mother whispered, Richard. But there was no force behind it. I did not move. I had heard versions of that line my whole adult life. Charlotte always has to take the hard road. Charlotte never learned how to make things easy. Charlotte is more emotion than achievement. Charlotte means well, but Vanessa knows how the world works. When I was younger, I argued. Then I learned my father did not debate to understand. He debated to exhaust. So I stopped giving him my energy in public. I let people believe what they wanted and went home with my dignity bruised but intact. That night, I almost did the same thing. Then Ethan looked at me differently. He leaned forward. "I'm sorry," he said. "Your name is Charlotte?" Vanessa laughed quickly. "Yes, Ethan. My sister Charlotte." But he was still looking at me. "Charlotte," he repeated. "Just Charlotte." I met his eyes. "That's the name I use professionally, yes." His hand, which had been resting beside his plate, went still. "Have we met?" he asked. "Not in person." Vanessa's fingers tightened around his sleeve. "Ethan, what is it?" He did not answer right away. My father noticed the shift and did what he always did when he sensed attention moving away from him. He got louder. "Don't let Charlotte intimidate you," Richard said with a laugh. "She talks big sometimes, but Vanessa is the successful one. Charlotte has always preferred making everything sound more serious than it is." No one laughed that time. Ethan reached for his phone under the table. He tried to be discreet, but the glow hit the underside of his face. Margaret noticed first. She was 71, elegant in a dark jacket, with silver hair pulled back and eyes that missed nothing. She did not say a word. She just set down her glass. Vanessa whispered, "Ethan, what are you doing?" He scrolled. His expression changed slowly. Not dramatically. Not like someone discovering a secret celebrity. More like a man realizing two documents on his desk had been stapled together in the wrong order. "Something I should have seen before tonight," he said. Vanessa's smile cracked. "Can we not do this at dinner? I don't even know what this is yet." The server came in carrying salads at the exact wrong moment. She placed plates in front of people while the room went so quiet the silverware sounded rude. I thanked her because someone had to act like we were still human. Ethan looked from his phone to me. "Are you the same Charlotte from the Meridian Review?" The word Meridian hit the table harder than my father's toast had. Vanessa went pale under her makeup. My father's mouth tightened. My mother suddenly became fascinated with her napkin. I said, "That depends on what they told you about me." Ethan sat back a little. "I was told you weren't involved." "By who?" He looked at Vanessa. She let out a soft laugh that sounded like it had been glued together in a hurry. "Charlotte keeps to herself. She's not really part of all that stuff." "What stuff?" I asked. "You know what I mean." "I don't think I do." Richard cut in. "Whatever you found online, don't let it fool you. Charlotte has always loved making herself sound important." I turned to him. "Online." He froze just for half a second. It was small, but I saw it. "So did Margaret." Ethan said quietly, "I didn't just find something online. I recognized the name because two separate people told me not to push if Charlotte had flagged the file. They said if she refused support, there was usually a reason." The room shifted around me. Not physically. No one stood up. No one gasped. But the entire feeling changed. The joke had stopped being a joke. My father's punchline had become a question. Vanessa put her hand on Ethan's arm again. "This is getting blown out of proportion. Charlotte has always been dramatic about paperwork." I looked at her hand on his sleeve. "Interesting. You were less relaxed about paperwork when you thought I could save yours." Her eyes snapped to mine. "Charlotte," my mother warned. There it was. Not Richard, "Stop insulting your daughter." Not Vanessa, "Tell the truth." Just Charlotte, "Be careful." I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. The table noticed. My father noticed most of all. "What is that?" he asked. "Context." "Put it away." I laid the folder beside my plate. "No." That one word made my mother's face fall like I had thrown a glass. I opened the folder slowly, not because I wanted drama, but because speed makes people think you are angry. I was angry, but I needed them to see I was also clear. The first page was an email from my father. I turned it toward Ethan and Margaret, not the whole table. I was not there to expose unrelated private details. I was there to correct a specific lie. "This is Dad writing to me last month," I said. He said. If your name is attached, they'll stop asking questions. Richard's chair creaked. That is out of context. Then explain the context. He opened his mouth, closed it, took a drink of water. Margaret leaned forward slightly. I would like to hear the context as well. Richard gave her the smile he used when he wanted a woman to feel unreasonable. It's family language. You know how families exaggerate. That is not an answer, Margaret said. The silence after that was almost beautiful. I placed the second page on the table. A screenshot from Vanessa. Please don't make me explain to Ethan that you're the reason this stalled. Vanessa reached for it. Ethan put his hand over the paper before she could grab it. Don't, he said. Her face flushed. You saved private messages? You sent private lies into public consequences, I said. I was stressed, she said. You know how Dad gets. I do know how Dad gets. That's why I save things. Uncle Ray made a sound like he wanted to laugh and cough at the same time. Then he stared down at his plate. I put down the third page, the summary of my refusal. I did not support the file because the disclosures were incomplete, I said. There were old obligations described vaguely, a guarantee that was not clearly explained, and several answers that changed depending on who was asking. My refusal was not personal. It was not jealousy. It was not me trying to ruin Vanessa's life. It was me refusing to attach my name to something that was not honest. Ethan's jaw tightened. He turned to Vanessa. Did you know your sister reviewed this? Vanessa's voice dropped. It's more complicated than that. He nodded once slowly. That usually means yes. Ethan, I was trying to avoid family drama. By telling me she had nothing to do with it? Because if I told you Charlotte was involved, you would make it into a thing. I almost laughed at that. You mean you were afraid he would ask why the family failure was the one holding the keys? My father slapped his hand lightly on the table. Not hard enough to be violent, just enough to remind everyone he expected the room back. Enough, he said. This is Vanessa's night. I looked at him. It was Vanessa's night when you toasted her. It became my public evaluation when you used me as the contrast. Marian whispered. Please not here. I turned to my mother. I loved my mother. That made it worse. She was not cruel the way my father was. She did not enjoy the insults. But she had built a whole life around managing the feelings of whoever was loudest, and I had almost always been quieter. It was here when he humiliated me, I said. It became the wrong place when I answered. Her eyes filled with tears, but she did not reply. Margaret picked up the refusal summary and read it carefully. The whole room waited while she scanned the page. My father looked like he might actually sweat through his shirt. Then Margaret set the paper down. Richard, she said. Were the disclosures incomplete? He tried to laugh. This is getting absurd. It's a family dinner, not a board meeting. Were they incomplete? We were still gathering details. That is a yes wearing a hat, Ethan said quietly. Vanessa looked at him like he had slapped her. Seriously, she whispered. You're taking her side? I'm trying to find out why your family wanted mine to trust a story your own sister had already refused to sign. My father pointed at me. This is what she does. She waits. She collects things. Then she makes herself the victim. I felt something in me go very still. For years I had been afraid of that accusation. Bitter. Jealous. Difficult. Victim. Those words worked because they made me explain myself until everyone got tired. But I was 42 years old, sitting at a table with a folder full of their own words, and for the first time I did not feel the urge to convince him. No, Dad, I said. I was useful as long as I stayed quiet. His face reddened. I slid one final page from the folder. Not the old transfer confirmation. I did not need it yet. I had brought it, but bringing evidence and using every piece of it are two different choices. Instead, I pulled out a short email thread where he had asked for an introduction, then called me ungrateful when I asked for corrected documents first. You told Ethan's family Vanessa was the daughter with ambition, I said. You told them I didn't understand serious money. But while you were saying that, you were asking me to make calls, review documents, and lend credibility to a file you knew had problems. I asked you to help your sister, he snapped. No. You asked me to help you lie cleanly. Vanessa burst into tears then, but not the kind that comes from hurt. The kind that comes from being cornered. Why couldn't you let me have one perfect night? She said. I looked at her across the table, really looked at her. My older sister. The woman who had spent her life being told she was the prize and had believed it so completely that any truth threatening that story felt like theft. I didn't come here to prove I was better than you, I said. I came here hoping for once you'd stop needing me to be worse. She covered her mouth, but her eyes were furious. The room was silent except for someone's phone buzzing against a plate. No one reached for it. I continued because some moments open once and close fast. You spent years making me the small one in this family. Tonight, I'm just done shrinking so you can feel tall. My voice did not shake. I noticed that more than anything. I had always imagined that if I finally said something, I would sound dramatic or broken. I sounded tired. Maybe that was worse for them. I turned to Ethan. I will not approve, support, introduce, recommend, or vouch for any file that begins with lies. I will not attach my name to incomplete disclosures. I will not be used as quiet credibility while being mocked in public. My name is not available as a family decoration. Margaret gave the smallest nod. Not approval exactly. Recognition. Ethan folded the papers carefully and slid them back toward me. Are these complete? He asked. Enough for tonight, I said. If you need formal copies through the proper channel, you know how to request them. I won't turn this dinner into your review process. That mattered to me. I was not trying to become the center of Ethan and Vanessa's marriage. I was not there to whisper every ugly detail into his ear. I had corrected the lie that had been placed in front of me. That was enough. Margaret picked up her purse. I think we should pause all discussions until the facts are clean, she said. Then she looked toward the server hovering near the doorway and added, and I think we should ask for the check. Somehow that was the most devastating sentence of the night. Vanessa wiped her face with a napkin. You embarrassed me in front of my husband's family. I put the papers back in the folder. No. I corrected you. Richard leaned toward me. You think this makes you strong? Airing private family matters in front of strangers. They became involved when you used my name to impress them. You humiliated this family. You humiliated me first. You just expected me to help. He stared at me like he had never seen me before. Maybe he hadn't. Maybe he had only ever seen the version of me that absorbed the blow and carried on. Ethan stood and excused himself. He did not storm out. He did not shout. He simply said, I need to make a call, and left the room with his phone in his hand. Vanessa looked like she wanted to follow him but was afraid of what he might say in the hallway. Uncle Ray finally leaned toward me. Char, he muttered. I didn't know it was all like that. I looked at him. Yes, you did. He swallowed. He had known enough. Years earlier, when the family emergency happened and I transferred money to stop everything from unraveling, he had been there. He heard my father later tell relatives that Vanessa had handled things beautifully. He had looked at me across the room then too. He had known. He had chosen comfort. I'm sorry, he said. I believe you, I replied. I just wish you were sorry when it mattered. My mother followed me when I stood. Charlotte, please don't make this worse, she whispered. I pulled my bag over my shoulder. I didn't make it. I stopped carrying it. Family matters more than being right. That line had ruled my life for decades. I looked at her and said, then why was I the only one expected to prove it? She had no answer. At the front, I paid for my own drink because I knew my father. By morning, if I had not paid, the story would include me storming out and sticking him with the bill. I kept the receipt, slipped it into my bag with the folder, and stepped outside. The night air was cool. My hands were steady. That surprised me. In the parking lot, I sat in my car for a minute before starting it. Through the restaurant window, I could see shapes moving in the private room. Someone stood. Someone sat back down. Vanessa's cream dress flashed near the doorway and disappeared. My phone began buzzing before I pulled out. Richard, you humiliated this family. Vanessa, I hope you're proud of yourself. Marianne, please come back inside so we can talk calmly. Uncle Ray, that got out of hand. I did not answer. By the time I got home, the group chat had become a trial where I was the only defendant not present. Richard wrote that I had always been bitter. Vanessa said I had sabotaged her marriage because I could not stand seeing her happy. My mother asked everyone to stop texting, then sent me a separate message asking me to apologize for the timing, even if I felt justified. Uncle Ray sent a thumbs-up emoji by accident, then deleted it, which would have been funny if I had any humor left in me. I put my phone face down on the kitchen counter, next to the half-dead basil plant. The house was quiet. No one was asking me to fix anything. No one was telling me to calm down. No one was sighing before saying my name. For the first time all night I cried. Not because I regretted it. Because I had waited so long to do something that simple. Tell the truth and let other people survive the sound of it. The next morning Ethan emailed me. It was brief and careful. Charlotte, I apologize for contacting you directly after last night. I am trying to determine whether the documents shown were complete, and whether the concerns you raised were formal concerns or personal objections. I understand if you prefer not to engage. I read it twice, then wrote back with equal care. Ethan, I am not here to interpret your marriage or your relationship with my family. I can only confirm that the file was not represented honestly to me. My concerns were formal and based on incomplete disclosures. If you need documentation, please request it through the proper channel. I will not participate in private pressure or family-side conversations. I almost added, I am sorry you were lied to. Then I deleted it. He did not need my sympathy mixed into the facts. That was another habit I was trying to break. Softening truth so everyone could swallow it. Over the next few weeks, consequences arrived quietly. No one went bankrupt overnight. No one got dragged out of a restaurant by security. Vanessa did not get abandoned dramatically in a wedding dress. Real consequences are usually quieter than that. Doors stopped opening. The plan froze. Ethan's relatives withdrew their informal support until the disclosures could be independently reviewed. Margaret, from what I heard, insisted that no one in her circle move forward on family assurances alone. Ethan did not immediately end his marriage, and I never expected him to. Marriage is complicated, and I was not rooting for a divorce like it was a game. But he demanded full disclosure before tying himself to anything connected to my father, and he made it clear to Vanessa that trust had been damaged early. Vanessa hated that most. She had built her new wife image around ease. She wanted to glide into Ethan's family as the elegant, capable daughter from a respectable home. Instead, she had to explain why the sister she described as jealous and unsuccessful had been asked to review the very file Vanessa claimed she knew nothing about. My father took it as a personal betrayal. He sent long messages, then short ones, then voicemails I did not play. Cruel. Selfish. Bitter. Ungrateful. You don't know what family means. That last one almost got a response. Almost. Instead, I made coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and wrote one message to the family group chat. I typed a longer version first. It had explanations, dates, examples, little arguments defending myself against accusations they had not even made yet. Then I deleted all of it. I sent this instead. I will not provide money, introductions, recommendations, signatures, quiet corrections, or public silence to anyone who humiliates me and then asks to use my name. Do not involve me in future plans unless you are prepared to be honest about my role. Richard responded within 1 minute. Dramatic as always. Vanessa wrote, You really are enjoying this. My mother wrote, Can everyone please stop? I turned off notifications. The strangest part was how quickly my life became quieter. Not easier immediately. Quieter. There were no midnight texts asking me to just look at something. No forwarded documents with missing pages. No family emergencies that somehow became my moral obligation after everyone else had ignored them for months. Invitations slowed down too, which hurt less than I expected. I had spent years attending events where my assigned role was to be the contrast that made Vanessa shine. Once I stopped playing it, they did not know where to seat me. That was fine. A month after the dinner, Marianne came by unannounced. I almost did not open the door, but she looked small through the peephole, holding a container of soup like an apology she did not know how to say. We sat at my kitchen table. She looked at the basil plant on the windowsill. It was still alive, barely, with a few stubborn green leaves at the top. "You always could keep things alive," she said softly. I did not take the bait. Compliments from my mother often came with a bill attached. She folded her hands. "Your father is very hurt." "I'm sure he is. Vanessa says Ethan barely talks about the family file with her now. Everything goes through other people." "That sounds wise." My mother looked pained. "Charlotte." There was the sigh. Gentler than my father's, but still there. "Mom," I said, "did you know they were using my name with Ethan's family?" She stared at the table. That was my answer. "I knew your father had asked for help," she said. "That is not what I asked." Her eyes watered. "I thought if you helped, it would all settle down. And if I got blamed later?" She said nothing. I nodded slowly. It hurt, but it was clean. There is a certain mercy in finally hearing the silence underneath someone's love. "You wanted me to take the risk quietly," I said. "Then sit there while he called me stubborn in front of the people benefiting from it. I didn't want that. But you accepted it." She started crying then. I let her. I did not comfort her immediately, and that was new too. I had always rushed to make my mother's guilt less visible. That day I let it sit between us. After a while she whispered, "I should have said something." "Yes. I don't know how to fix this." "You don't fix it by asking me to go back to normal." She wiped her face. "What do you want?" It was such a simple question that I almost did not know how to answer. "I want to not be invited if the price of admission is humiliation," I said. "I want Dad to stop using me privately and insulting me publicly. I want Vanessa to build whatever life she wants without needing me under her foot. And I want you to stop calling me when their consequences get uncomfortable." My mother flinched, but she listened. That was more than she had done in years. She left without asking me to apologize. I considered that progress, though not forgiveness. Vanessa did not contact me for a while. When she finally did, her message was exactly what I expected and still somehow disappointing. "I hope it was worth damaging my marriage." I wrote back. "I didn't damage your marriage. I revealed a lie inside it." She did not respond. Uncle Ray called twice. I let it go to voicemail. His second message was awkward and rambling. He said he had been thinking about the old emergency, and that maybe he should have corrected the story years ago. Maybe. That word carried a lot of cowardice for 4 letters. I texted him once. "Maybe you should have." Then I stopped there. I used to think closure meant people admitting exactly what they did and understanding exactly how it hurt me. I do not think that anymore. Some people will only admit the smallest possible truth that still lets them sleep at night. Waiting for more is just another way to stay tied to them. The family story changed after that dinner. Not publicly, not in some grand announcement. But the old version stopped working as smoothly. When my father called me unsuccessful, someone would remember the folder. When Vanessa implied I was jealous, someone would remember Ethan asking, "You're that Charlotte?" When my mother said we should keep peace, someone would remember that peace had always meant I swallowed the insult and they swallowed dessert. And me? I stopped shrinking. I stopped attending dinners where I was the designated punchline. I stopped fixing emergencies that were hidden from me until the last second. I stopped answering messages that began with, "I know we haven't talked, but..." I stopped proving I was valuable to people who only recognized my value when they needed access to it. One Sunday, about 2 months after the dinner, I watered the basil plant. It looked ridiculous, honestly. Uneven, half bare, leaning toward the window like it had survived out of spite. But there was new growth at the stem. I stood there with the watering can in my hand and realized I had gone 3 days without checking the family chat. That felt like peace. Not the kind my mother meant. Not silence bought by swallowing another insult. Actual peace. The kind where no one gets to use your name while teaching you to hate the sound of it. They said I ruined Vanessa's perfect night. Maybe I did. But all I really did was stop letting them build perfect stories on top of my silence. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.